Hello everyone! Welcome to my third part of Shadowlands Mistweaver guide series. Today I will walk you through everything there is to Fistweaving grading spec. You can find timestamps in the description if you're interested in particular things. So, just to be clear, when I say Fistweaving, we are still talking about Mistweaver Monk. It's just another name for a build that revolves around healing your allies by dealing melee damage, instead of more classic healing playstyle. Fistweaving is kind of similar to Holy Paladin. It's very fluid, versatile and mobile build that lately dominates high-end raiding Mistweaver builds in Castle Nathria. Stat weights are pretty similar to classic Mistweaving build with the exception of haste importance. It is advised to have around 15% of it. It's roughly a amount that puts Rising Sun Kick on 10-second cooldown. Then we follow Mistweaving stat priority, which is Crit, Verse, Haste, Mastery. Crit and Verse are pretty close and more haste makes gameplay smoother. Mastery is still not that useful though. Fistweaving talents are quite straightforward with some alternative options needed for particular fights. Level 15 row is almost always going to have Chi Burst selected. It's soft capped at 6 targets mana free heal that you use on cooldown. Miswrap works with our build as well, but only on fights with spot healing. As Fistweaver, we have two options to choose from on level 30, aka Mana Management row. As Mistweaver spec, you'd normally pick Mana Tea, which is still viable and by some considered go-to. Spirit of the Crane is less popular option, but it's so much easier to execute and mana gain is very close to Mana Tea. Let's do some math. We use Mana Tea in two ways, either with or without Celestial. It's 7.8k and 7k mana save accordingly, with average of 7.4k. Divided by 1.5, it gives us around 5k mana saved per minute. Spirit of the Crane regenerates 0.65% of our mana pool each time we use Blackout Kick. 0.65% equals to 325 mana each Blackout Kick. So in order for Spirit of the Crane to be on par with Mana Tea, we have to throw out roughly 15 Blackout Kicks per minute. It is very doable but kind of tricky. Also, bear in mind that you can mess up Mana Tea very easily by timing it incorrectly, which will delay your next Celestial and be more of a HPS loss rather than gain. And even assuming that you time your Mana Tea correctly, it doesn't mean that it will be efficient. Spirit passively regenerates mana while following your rotation, and its gain is close to ideal Mana Tea usage. Besides that, you can throw to the bin all mana from Mana Tea if you happen to get a mechanic during it. It's not that case with Spirit. Personally, I by default use Spirit of the Crane. I tend to swap to Mana Tea when I know I can time it correctly or I won't have that easy time in melee though. Level 40 row is tempting us with Invoke Chi, and it surprisingly isn't our go-to pick here. It fits perfectly into our rotation, I agree, but the only thing it really does is save us mana. Every third melee ability, with the exception of Tiger Palm for obvious reasons, gives us 3 instant cast Enveloping Mist. Chi, unlike Yulon, does not passively heal. Instead, it throws 2 gusts of mist for each melee ability, which translates to 2 free mastery procs. If you have means to boost your mastery for Chi duration like Carrion Covenant ability, it becomes very potent, but you will probably still choose Refreshing Jadewind over it. It's kind of shame that even this strong interaction falls to the brute healing force of Refreshing Jadewind. Level 50 is no brainer, just pick Rising Mist. It makes our Rising Sun Kick extend all our healing over time effects. That includes Essence Font, Renewing Mist and Enveloping Mist. It boosts benefit from Miswrap even further if you run it. 3-4 seconds of expensive AF Enveloping Mist? Yes, please. Just as our last talent pick, our Legendary is also no brainer. Ancient Teachings of the Monastery gives us 15 seconds buff each time we cast Essence Font that makes our melee damaging abilities heal for 250% of their damage. The range is 20 yards, which is shorter than you think, but still enough to base this whole build around it. Also worth mentioning that its healing doesn't get double benefit from Critical Strike and Versatility. The amount of damage you deal, which gets those benefits already, is just multiplied by 2.5 and voila! No further benefits. We only have one Fistweaving specific conduit, which is Rising Sun Revival. Makes a Rising Sun Kick reduce cooldown of revival by 1 second. Healing over time after revival is hardly noticeable, but hey, it's something. As for our second conduit, go with what you prefer really. I use Resplendent Mist for the most part, but Covenant Conduits or even Jade Bond could work. Generally, when it comes to Soulbinds, we don't care as much about second potency slot. Go for best Soulbind ability. Trinket choices are pretty much same as for Mistweaving spec. One unused stat boost and one passive stat proc. Our best unused options are Soul Letting Ruby from Theater of Pain, Inscrutable Quantum Device from the other side, PvP Trinkets. Advise making macro for unused trinket with Celestial. I put one for example in previous episode. As for passive effect trinkets, we have Unbound Changeling from Mist of Tyrna Scythe, Kabbalist Hymnor from Saved Denathrius, and again PvP trinkets. With this build, our healing rotation is simple. We pretty much always stay in melee range and do our DPS rotation, which directly contributes into our healing. How frequent do we cast Essence Font depends on a fight really, but I'd say we cast it each time our Ancient Teachings of the Monastery buff runs out. Besides that, when we have ongoing great damage, we always keep Chi Burst on cooldown as it's most mana efficient, then we maintain Refreshing Jade Wind, maintain Renewing Mist and just follow our DPS rotation. You can throw a few Enveloping Mist or Vivifies here and there when someone is in need, but most of your raid healing will come from DPSing, Refreshing Jade Wind and Essence Font. Fistweaving DPS rotation is not complex by any means, but there are a few things you need to remember about it. For example, each Tiger Palm used makes your next Blackout Kick hit one additional time, up to 4 hits per cast. But the thing is that being able to hold 3 Teachings of the Monastery stacks doesn't mean you always do it. Every Blackout Kick has 15% chance to reset cooldown on Rising Sun Kick, so we prefer to cast actual Blackout Kicks as often as possible rather than stack 3 Teachings of the Monastery stacks. It's less likely to waste resets this way as well as make them happen more often. When it comes to Thunder Focus Tea, we use it only with Rising Sun Kick. Reducing its cooldown is worth more than singular free Vivify or longer Renewing Mist, which we can extend with Rising Sun Kick anyways. Talking about tea, if you chose Mana Tea and wonder how to use it, I already talked about it in previous episode. Its usage is same as on Mistweaving spec. That's it for today. I hope you found this guide useful. If you want to see more guides like this one, or other content related to World of Warcraft, be sure to subscribe to my channel or let me know you enjoyed it by liking this video. This was Jack from spec. Have a good one.